I was a really picky eater growing up. For me, it was a texture thing. If something was too crunchy, too slimy, too wet, it just didn't sit right. As I've grown older, I've learned to appreciate food much more holistically, and I think I can help picky eaters do the same. Welcome to So You Don't Like, a series for picky eaters and the people who have to accommodate them. Each episode will focus on one specific ingredient that people really tend to dislike. People usually dislike something for one of three reasons. They've either never had it cooked correctly, they don't like the texture, or they don't like the flavor of it. Every episode, I'll show you a classic way to cook the ingredient on its own, a recipe to adjust the texture of the ingredient, and a recipe to completely alter the flavor of the ingredient. So you don't like broccoli? Well, I've got you covered.
In my experience growing up, veggies were always treated like something simple to be steamed with butter and salt. There's nothing inherently wrong with steamed broccoli, but there's also nothing really exciting or interesting about that. For the last few years, my standard cooking method for most veggies has been roasting. High heat, olive oil, and simple seasoning allow the vegetables to get some nice roasted flavor, which transforms them from a boring side to something exciting. If you're trying to get better about eating broccoli, I recommend using mostly the florets at the top. The stem can be woodier and also has a little bit more of the pungent broccoli flavor that I think people don't like. The stems can be really delicious if you peel off some of the woody outer layer and cut them into smaller pieces. They are a little more dense, so they need more time to cook though. Get your pieces onto a sheet tray and toss with olive oil, salt, pepper, and garlic powder. These can go into a 450-degree oven for 10 to 15 minutes. Once they're nicely browned, you can remove them from the oven, top them with flaky salt, and this simple roasted broccoli may just change the mind of a steamed broccoli hater. If you're sick of soggy broccoli, take a listen to this. We'll be making deliciously crunchy and salty broccoli fritters to solve for people who don't like the texture of broccoli. Think of these like fancy broccoli tater tots. To ensure the broccoli is totally cooked from the frying, we need to steam our florets first. Chop your broccoli into medium florets and place them into a steamer. I only have one of these bamboo ones, so I had to stack them. Place them over a pot of boiling water and steam until tender. These need somewhere between 6 to 10 minutes in the steamer, so test them by poking them with a fork at the 5-minute mark. Once cooked, we can remove them from the pot and allow them to cool while we make the fritter batter. These may be the easiest fried food on the planet, so don't be intimidated. Dice 2 large green onions or 3 small ones and add them to a large mixing bowl. Take your steamed and cooled broccoli and run your knife through them to create a tiny dice. Place a Dutch oven over medium-low heat with enough oil to come up roughly 1.5 inches from the bottom. Season these generously with salt, pepper, garlic powder, cumin, smoked paprika, and onion powder. To transform this into a cohesive batter, we'll add 1 beaten egg and mix. To this, I measure half a cup of flour, but I add it in stages. These usually don't need all of the flour, we just need enough for them to hold shape when pressed with a spoon. If they hold together nicely, you're ready to go. Get your oil up to 325 degrees Fahrenheit and have a place to put the fritters after they're fried. I just use a spoon to portion each fritter, then I slide the fritter into the oil using a second spoon. I find that I like the smaller portions because you get more crunchy texture that way. These need a total of 4 to 6 minutes in the oil depending on the size. Flip them at the halfway mark and let them get brown on both sides. Salt them when they're ready to come out of the fryer and be ready to enjoy some crunchy fritter goodness. These are perfect for anyone who has an aversion to the texture of broccoli or if you love dipping things in ketchup. Okay, so we've covered texture, now let's transform broccoli into something delicious and craveable. We're making cheesy and spicy broccoli quesadillas. For the filling, we need half a white onion chopped from root to stem. Leave the root on and make vertical cuts in the onion. Then cut off the root end where all of your cuts end and you should have a perfectly sliced onion. Slice your broccoli into medium florets and place in a bowl separate from the onion. For quesadilla cheese, you have a few great options to go with. Jack cheese is always good, queso Oaxaca is amazing if you have it available, and mozzarella can work in a pinch. That's what I have here. For 3 to 4 quesadillas, 8 ounces of cheese is good. For the spice in these bad boys, we'll need some good tasting chili oil. I've got La Gama Chili Crisp for flavor and a local brand for heat. You need 1 to 2 tablespoons in total, so use whichever brand you like. We'll start by sauteing our onion over medium heat with some salt. Use just enough oil to coat the pan and move them around as they begin to brown. We're not caramelizing these onions, that would be way too sweet for the final dish. Remove them from the pan once browned, add a little more oil to the pan, and add in your broccoli. The broccoli needs a good amount of time over medium heat to cook thoroughly and char slightly. Keep the florets moving and add more oil as needed. Once they've taken on some color and are tender, add back your onion and cook for another minute. Add your chili oil, mix, and taste it. If it's not spicy enough, add a little more and season with salt. Remove from the pan and wipe out anything that's left. This is a case where I'm good with using store-bought tortillas, so warm them in a pan on one side. Flip the tortilla over and top with cheese and about 1/3 of the broccoli mix. Once the cheese is melted, fold the tortilla and cook further on both sides. I like to put a little oil in the pan to get a fried, crunchy texture on the outside. Continue this process until all the quesadillas have been built. These are cheesy, spicy, salty, and delicious. They've got a nice bit of greasiness you actually want in a good quesadilla, but without the meat. These have honestly become my new favorite way of making and eating quesadillas. Now, if you're a picky eater and made it through the video, thank you so much for watching. I hope this inspires you to give broccoli another shot. Let me know in the comments if this would get you to try broccoli again, and let me know what foods you'd like to see in the future. Subscribe to get more cooking content, and consider supporting me on Patreon like these amazing people do. Cheers!